Well. Good morning, folks. It is about 7:48. We are going to get started pretty soon. It is 7:48 Central Time. I'm so glad you're here on the Nate Real Midwest podcast live for a couple hours, or how long as my body can last with you guys. What can I say right now? I think you guys are just talking this ideal nonsense. That's what I say about Democrats. But, today is the day that we get started. And today is we get started a lot more than we could ever get started. A lot's going on across our country and across our state, and I think ideally we need to talk about Minnesota. Literally, we do. Tim Walz hasn't posted anything on social media, and I think it's funny. I think it's funny that he hasn't posted anything on social media, and I think it's interesting. So I think yesterday I looked at the clips that were so defining itself and its power. And a lot of people are going to ask me, how long can you even go live and talk about this? Let me tell you, I could go 3 hours straight talking about Minnesota and what has happened. The facts that I brought, the bills that are coming up, the stuff that has happened, the cuts that we had in the state of Minnesota, and the $6 billion deficit with an $18 billion surplus that they were all talking about. We lost $12 billion in the state of Minnesota, and taxes are still skyrocketing high. And get this, they would only pass the bill that now we're not going to fund illegals free health care, and people are complaining. And then you have these no king riots. So if you have these no king riots, are you really saying that Jesus Christ is not king? Because Donald Trump is not a king. So you're going to the riots and saying these no king riots, and you're really saying that Jesus Christ is not king. That is sad. The same. You Democrats never protested when Obama was doing stuff. You never protested when Bush was doing stuff. You never protested when Clinton was doing stuff, but you're protesting because Trump is doing stuff? I really don't understand this. Not one bit do I understand this. I don't. I never want to understand what is coming out of your guys' mouth. Foaming at the mouth because you're complaining. Let me make something really clear. If Donald J. Trump was not president, you guys would have been happy. Well, I'm sorry. He's president of the United States and putting America first, and it seems like you Democrats don't like it because you're simping for Iran. But wait a second. I have one question to ask you. If you're really simping for Iran, why on earth did I watch this video, and I should share this, and this idea of the Democratic Party talking about that Doge, we should do all this wasteful, get rid of all this wasteful funding, get cuts of all these stuff, and now you guys have a complaining about what's going on? Let's watch this video. Let's watch this video, and let's talk about what's really happening. There we go.
Government. HoneyBook is less of a platform and more of a business partner. It handles all my leads, clients, projects, and payments, and
Doge is creating.
In other news, Minnesota residents are going to be happy to hear this. It just came out.
Out of the news, Minnesota representatives.
This hearing of the subcommittee on delivering on government efficiency will come to order. Welcome, everyone. Without objection, the chair may declare a recess at any time. I recognize myself for the purpose of making an opening statement. Good morning and welcome to today's hearing. I would like to begin by showing a video of what Doge is all about.
We know and we have worked to give the American people a smaller, less bureaucratic government in Washington. And we have to give the American people one that lives within its means. The era of big government is over. The steps we're taking today will save the American taxpayers $9 billion. And ordered federal agencies to cut billions of dollars in administrative costs and to trim 100,000 federal positions by attrition.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less. We'll consolidate departments. We'll get rid of duplicate departments. We'll allow competition to bring about better service at lower cost. We can downsize government by 12%. Reducing the bureaucracy by 252,000 positions.
Everyone knows that getting rid of the deficit will require some tough decisions. And that includes cutting back on billions of dollars in programs that a lot of people care about. But what should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody. You're paying for thousands of buildings all across the country no one uses. Now, the government hadn't been able to sell this building and others like it because of red tape.
We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. And in September, Joe convened the cabinet and has really pushed them hard in finding savings across all our agencies.
We need to step up our game. We need to go after every dime. We need to make government work for you. That's why, starting today, I've asked the Vice President to lead a renewed effort to hunt down misspent tax dollars in every agency and department of this government.
We're not just eliminating fraud and waste. We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue. We're going to give you the government you expect and deserve.
I certainly wish that my Democrat colleagues felt the same as their former Democrat leaders felt and worked to try to reduce our deficit and reduce the size of our government. Unfortunately, these former Democrat leaders failed at what they were saying they were trying to do. But today's Doge and Doge subcommittee is actually delivering on those exact promises, and we are delivering the results. It's too bad that my Democrat colleagues constantly mock Doge, attack Doge, criticize Doge, and criticize the hardworking people in Doge. They also attack this committee and attack what we're all about. But that's today's Democrat Party. They're for big government, big spending, and doing nothing for the American people. They're America last. This subcommittee has highlighted where Doge has staunched the flow of waste, fraud, and abuse in federal spending. Doge drove the administration to turn off the spending faucet that was pouring out billions of dollars to corrupt anti-American NGOs, to illegal DEI programs, and to a vast array of wasteful, unnecessary federal grants, contracts, leases, and personnel. President Trump drove this massive effort by creating Doge via executive order on Inauguration Day. He then issued a series of White House directives empowering Doge teams to work with agency leaders government-wide in an unprecedented effort to root out wasteful spending using all means at their disposal. And that effort has borne fruit. The Doge website identifies $180 billion in savings achieved in just a matter of months. We need to make sure we lock in those savings. It should be the first installment we pay on our nation's $37 trillion debt. We need to tackle that debt on behalf of our children and future generations. That's why Congress needs to act. Doge has shown how our government can cost less and deliver more. It's shown how we can turn off the faucet. It's shown we don't need to spend all the dollars that Congress appropriated for this year. Congress can reverse that unnecessary spending by rescinding dollars it's appropriated. That's why the administration recently sent a $9 billion rescission request to Congress. By the way, you just saw Democrats on that video talking about saving $9 billion. Republicans just delivered on that. It would prevent dollars. Our $9 billion rescission would prevent dollars from going to corrupt international organizations, to woke NGOs, to NPR, and to PBS. The House adopted the legislation earlier this month, H.R. 4, the Rescission Act of 2025. But we need to do more, much more. $9 billion is just the tip of the iceberg of the waste that DOJ has identified and of the spending that the administration has paused or shut off. So Congress needs to work with the administration and DOJ to rescind billions more of dollars it has appropriated for agencies to spend. DOJ is also creating savings that will lower the cost of government for years to come. For instance, the administration is right-sizing the federal bureaucracy by eliminating several 100,000 staff positions. That reduces discretionary spending costs for the next year and every future year by tens of billions of dollars. So we need to adjust those levels of new appropriations to align with the streamlined government DOJ is creating. That's why the president proposed last month, when he submitted to Congress a budget for next year that reduces non-discretionary spending by $163 billion. If we lower the spending baseline in that way, we can save $2 trillion in that portion of the budget over the coming decade. We need to lock in DOJ savings for the taxpayers, and we should also be thinking about locking in the DOJ process that has produced these savings. DOJ has attracted enemies because it's taken on Washington's culture of spending and the money laundering schemes that have been embedded in this institution. We should make that a permanent battle. We should institutionalize the battle against waste, fraud, and abuse in government. I hope that is something with which my Democrat colleagues can at least agree on. DOJ is working with agencies to reduce the rampant fraud that GAO says costs taxpayers as much as $500 billion annually. To enhance fraud detection, agencies are now providing the Treasury Department more information about financial awards, and they are making more use of Treasury's Do Not Pay database to avoid funding fraudsters. DOJ is also lowering the barriers that prevent agencies from sharing data to identify duplicate awardees. What's more, DOJ has pioneered what the president calls radical transparency concerning wasteful spending. The DOJ website and individual federal agency sites continually update for public view the specific grants, contracts, leases, and other payments that they are flagging for termination. This is how you change the culture of spending. And with that, I yield to Ranking Member Stansbury for her opening statement.
I recently inherited a house, but I'm having the hardest time selling it.
I love a good fixer-upper.
Honey, do I?
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the DOJ subcommittee. Notwithstanding the
Wait a second. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor to speak. You Democrats have no respect when the other aisle is in charge and when it becomes the ranking member. Come on, people. Really.
abject failure of the DOJ enterprise inside the federal government and the epic breakup of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, here we are again. Once again in this committee. I'm grateful that the chairwoman showed, again, one of my favorite videos, which she showed on the first day of the subcommittee. I'm grateful because it highlights the work that we've been doing for decades to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, including
false
work that I was intimately involved in as a budget examiner in the Office of Management and Budget, in which we actually eliminated waste, fraud, and abuse.
You did? Where's the facts? I want you to give me the facts on that support. Bucket crap.
But unfortunately, as my friends across the aisle in the GOP and their Heritage Foundation witnesses are still trying to make Doge happen yet again.
Why not? You never did anything during the Obama administration. You sat there and did nothing. Come on, girl. Speak it up.
The American people are over it.
No, we're not.
In fact, you don't have to take my word for it. A poll from just 2 weeks ago,
A left-leaning poll. Let's go.
found that 67% of
67%. How many percent voted for Donald J. Trump?
voters believe Doge has done a bad job. That
False.
was just 2 weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago. That was literally 2 weeks ago. How many people voted for Donald J. Trump? How many?
Oh. And in fact, when I told one of my friends that we were having another Doge subcommittee hearing, they asked, really, is that still happening? Because literally the American people are over it, except for that it's not funny because
Oh, we're not over it. We ain't. We're not.
Doge has been used to wage a chaotic
Wait a second. I have a question. Doge has used the wage a chaotic thing, but you were the one that sat here. I want the facts. I really want the facts of what is going on. Let's continue.
destructive and ideological war against the American people.
Ideological war against the American people. Democrats are fear-mongering again, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys just don't join the podcast, Democrats are fear-mongering again. Let's go.
And the vital programs that they depend on. But I'm going to turn to that in just a moment here. Given everything that's happening in the world right now and with this administration, I don't...
Everything that's happening in the world right now, I see nothing is happening. I see people going to work, not worrying about a thing. You, my lady, are a liar.
think we can sit here and pretend like everything is normal because just 4 days ago, the president launched an unauthorized military attack in Iran without the consent of Congress, putting our troops and our bases in harm's way, as we saw just last night with the retaliatory bombing of one. One of our largest bases. And Madam Chair, I have actually been extremely grateful and wholeheartedly agree with your outspoken advocacy against this war. But like so many...
It's not a war. It's not a war. We haven't. Did Donald Trump say we're going to war yet? Hell no, he did not. He did not say we're going to war yet, people. Oh, these Democrats make me so cringe. Let's continue.
In this administration, so many days and weeks, this follows weeks of chaos here at home. As the president has deployed U.S. Marines and National Guard on our own soil against our own people, his DHS secretary and federal officials.
Not against our own people. He did it because LA was getting out of control and he needed to call in the National Guard. You guys are speaking the rhetoric like you guys always do. If Obama did it, you guys would be fine with it.
Shoved a U.S. senator to the ground. DOJ.
That is so false.
Indicted a sitting congresswoman in this house.
I'm surprised. What did that congresswoman do? I would like to know.
For doing her job.
What was her job? What was her job? What was her job? Speaking about riots, going said I'm going to help riot people. Her job was to stay where the fuck she was doing. Oh, come on.
Tried to arrest a New York City official in a federal courthouse.
We have every right to do it. Call them federal impeachment and stuff. Wait until those impeachments do. But 128 Democrats voted not to impeach Donald J. Trump. Oh my gosh, people. I get so hyped up on this.
This is not only not normal, it is dangerous, it is anti-American. And
you guys are for anti-America. You guys want illegal immigrants to come out here. What on earth am I reading here, Tucker Carlson?
It is anti-democratic.
Anti-democratic. Oh, nope, it's definitely democratic. It's definitely democratic. You guys love protesting. But the problem is he's exposing who you guys are, and you guys don't like it. Let's continue.
And so we're not going to sit here today and pretend like what this administration is doing is normal.
This administration is doing what is normal, and you guys don't like it. They're following the Constitution of the United States, and it's like a constitution that you guys don't like following, perhaps.
And we're not going to sit here and pretend like Doge is just some normal government program. It is a scam.
Really? It's not a scam. It's not a scam. Wait, because they're exposing who you guys are? Okay, come on.
Service of a political agenda.
No, it's not. You're speaking false rhetoric.
Well, we came to the table at the beginning of this whole process in good faith with real ideas, bipartisan ideas that folks have been working on for years, and a desire to actually fix and modernize the federal government. What we've seen from Doge is the exact opposite. It has so failed in its stated mission of saving money that even the president asked if it was bullshit as Elon Musk was exiting the building. And if they want to talk about fiscal responsibility, while we're sitting here, they're still trying to pass a reconciliation bill across the aisle that would saddle taxpayers with $2.5 trillion in deficit spending. And in the last few weeks, reports have revealed that Doge may actually have cost the federal government more than it actually saved.
Where are you getting that from? Left media sources like you guys always do, that I've seen a lot of people post on Facebook these days as left media sources, not looking at the actual source or going to .gov. Come on, people. Stop hearing what the left media sources or the mainstream media wants to post, because they're lying to you and they're lying to the American people, and you will believe it. It needs to stop. Do your own research. Stop listening to the mainstream media, left-leaning sources. I don't even do right-leaning sources. I get the facts from the source. Come on.
Because of the mass firings, dismantled agencies, stolen data, lawsuits, agencies in chaos.
Are you going to be done talking? Because I'm getting pretty bored. I could go get a drink of water right now.
This is not efficiency.
Oh my gosh.
This is a scam.
Oh, it's a scam. Do we have to go back and look at the video that was just posted about Obama talking about this stuff? Shush your mouth.
Even to mention the completely
all right. We're going to fast forward for this stupidity woman.
Millions of children and people across the planet.
This woman has talked
the economic policy innovation
services.
This woman has talked so much.
Who are on rest.
Democrat
Virginia is waived on to the subcommittee for the purpose of questioning the witnesses at today's subcommittee hearing.
I'm sorry. I had to really fast forward that because what she is speaking is completely nonsense. It is nonsense what is coming out of the Democrat's mouth. It is nonsense. It's nonsense what is coming out of the Democrat's mouth. You Democrats are so not for America. You are not for America one bit. And you sit here and think you are for America, but you want to believe the mainstream media of lies that is coming out. Do you know how many Obama deported? He was called the deporter-in-chief, and you guys did not have a problem with it. And now Trump is deporting, you guys have a problem with it. You guys are sick. You know, I just watched a video about something, and I encourage people to go watch it. And this is when it gets, you guys are getting really sick. Did you know what they would choose? They would choose Osama bin Laden to come and stay with them than make America somebody who voted for Trump. A Democrat would. So you would like a terrorist who attack America to come and stay with you? Oh my gosh. You guys are sick. You guys are so freaking sick. Like, I can't believe this. I can't even watch this stupidity that's coming out of your guys' mouths right now. But I've listened to what is coming out of your guys' mouth because you guys are, like, damn sick of it. I'm sick. I'm sick of Democrats acting like this. I'm sick of people believing everything that the mainstream media has proposed. I don't even watch Fox News. I don't even watch CNN. I mean, it's crazy. But you guys will believe anything that comes out the mainstream media and believe it, and you run it. You Democrats are the ones that are fear-mongering the American people. You guys are the ones that are fear-mongering. You're not for America. You swore an oath to the Constitution to defend. You're not defending it. You're not defending it. You want to fund wars. You're not defending nothing. You're not an American anymore. You have lost your way to the American people, pretend to be Americans, but if somebody agrees to who you are, you agree with it. I'm sorry, there needs to be cuts done. I'm sorry. Nothing does not satisfy you. Leave the country and go somewhere else. If you don't like America, leave. Because right now, the Democrats will not reign no more. They are done. You have all lost it. You guys need to knock it off. Really need to knock it off. You're a disgusting human being and need to knock it off. Oh, you guys are getting disgusting these days. Let's continue.
I am pleased to introduce our witnesses today. Matthew Dickerson is the Director of Budget Policy at the Economic Policy Innovation Center. He is recognized as an expert on fiscal policy issues, including the budget, appropriations, and entitlement reform, and served as a senior policy advisor on the House Budget Committee. David Burton is a senior fellow in economic policy at the Heritage Foundation's Thomas A. Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies. He is widely regarded for his deep knowledge in issues such as entrepreneurship, financial privacy, tax matters, and regulatory and administrative law. Dan Lips is a senior fellow at the Foundation for American Innovation. He has more than 20 years of experience in public policy, including with the Senate Government Affairs Committee. His current work is focused on enhancing government efficiency. Emily DeVito is the Senior Advisor for Economic Policy at Groundwork Collaborative. Again, I want to thank you for being here to testify today. Pursuant to Committee Rule 9, the witnesses will please stand and raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that the witnesses answered in the affirmative. Thank you, and you may take a seat. We appreciate you being here today and look forward to your testimony. Let me remind the witnesses that we have read your written statement and they will appear in full in the hearing record. Please limit your oral statement to 5 minutes. As a reminder, please press the button on the microphone in front of you so that it is on and the members can hear you. When you begin to speak, the light in front of you will turn green. After 4 minutes, the light will turn yellow. When the red light comes on, your 5 minutes have expired, and we would ask that you please wrap it up. I now recognize Mr. Dickerson for his opening statement.
Chairwoman Green, Ranking Member Stansberry, and all the members of the committee, thank you so much for inviting me to testify today. The fiscal state of our nation is deteriorating, and unsustainable spending is the problem. Government spending that grows faster than the economy is inherently unsustainable. That's just basic math. Annual spending is now 50% higher than it was in 2019, before the pandemic. The national debt held by the public is now equal to the size of the entire economy. For context, in 1944, the year of D-Day and the Battle of the Bulge, the debt as a percentage of GDP was 86%. After we went into debt to save the world, the federal budget and the debt shrank while the economy grew in the post-World War II decades. But on our current trajectory, the debt is only projected to keep growing. This growing debt risks evaporating the government's fiscal space, which is its capacity to borrow, without undermining debt sustainability or risking a loss of market confidence. This fiscal limit can be considered the government's true debt limit. The fiscal situation was made much worse by 4 years of reckless spending under the Biden administration. The policies of the Biden-Harris administration increased federal spending by $4.7 trillion over just 4 years compared to the projections made by CBO immediately prior. President Biden's executive actions added more than $2 trillion in spending without explicit approval from Congress. The Biden administration spent hundreds of billions of dollars transferring student loan debt to the taxpayers from borrowers. They unilaterally increased food stamp benefits. They gutted Medicaid eligibility verification and many other policies that increase spending. The point of the American system of government based on hundreds of years of experience under the British Crown, was to restrict the ability of the unilateral expenditure of funds. By asserting the prerogative to spend the taxpayers' money unilaterally without authorization from Congress for this new spending, it could be said that Biden attempted to act as a king. In contrast, President Trump has focused on reducing taxpayer costs and reducing the power of government. This is the whole point of DOGE. Trump's discretionary budget would multiply to about $1.8 trillion of savings over the 10-year budget window. But that is only if Congress implements and continues these common sense savings. And that's why it's so important that you're holding this hearing today, Madam Chairman, so thank you. To paraphrase Madison in Federalist 58, the power to levy taxes and provide spending authority, and the power to withhold funds from the executive, that's the most effective way for the elected representatives of the American people to provide for the vital and appropriate services of the federal government, as well as to prevent abuse by the government using the people's funds. Congress has many tools at its disposal to carry out this vital responsibility. The most straightforward way to control waste, fraud, and abuse is by controlling agency budgets in the annual appropriations process. You can reduce the size of the federal bureaucracy. I estimate that reducing the federal workforce by 10% would allow discretionary appropriations for salaries and other benefits to be reduced by $559 to $608 billion over the next decade. The scope of authorized agency activities should also be properly limited. You can work with the administration, as you're currently doing, to rescind unneeded, unobligated funds. And of course, one of the most important tools at Congress's disposal to achieve budgetary savings is through the reconciliation process. America's current fiscal trajectory is unsustainable, but it's not irreversible.
Really?
DOGE has demonstrated that meaningful savings are, in fact, achievable.
Okay, DOGE has demonstrated one thing, and that's one thing only, as they had put it on what they were saying. Exactly.
By exercising its constitutional power of the purse, controlling appropriations, implementing workforce reforms, rescissions, and reconciliation, Congress can lock in the DOGE cuts, safeguard taxpayers, and avert a fiscal crisis. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize Mr. Burton for his opening statement.
Real-time protection keeps you safe from malware and online threats automatically, because nothing should slow you down. RAM Optimize.
Mr. Burton, can you turn it? Thank you.
Apologize.
And make sure when you talk, your microphone's close to your mouth. Yeah, thank you.
President Trump deserves tremendous credit for establishing the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. It's the first effort in a generation to provide comprehensive government-wide oversight of federal spending and management. There's been no similar effort since the 1990s during the Clinton administration. President Clinton and Speaker Gingrich controlled federal spending and improved government administration. Before that, you have to go back to President Reagan's Grace Commission to observe anything similar. Currently, the federal government, most assuredly, is not a good steward of the tax dollars taken from hardworking Americans, and it's poorly managed. It's time for that to change, and DOGE is an important part of making that change. Under President Clinton in 2000, federal spending fell to 17.7% of GDP, the lowest level since 1966. The federal government ran its last surplus in fiscal year 2001, which began during President Clinton's final term. In FY25, federal spending is expected to be about 23.3% of GDP. Thus, the share of the government now consumes of the economy is 32% greater than it was under President Clinton. The budget deficit is expected to be 6% of GDP this fiscal year and continue at that level for a decade. The federal debt is now $29 trillion and is expected to increase to $52 trillion, or 119% of GDP over the next decade. And it's projected to reach a crushing 156% of GDP by 2025. In context, at the final year of President Reagan, it was
39%, and the final year of President Clinton's term, it was 33%. Federal government is on an unsustainable path. The path will lead to sustained suffering among the American people, economic dislocation, and a declining standard of living unless Congress changes that path. No matter what, it's going to end. It can either end by making Congress make dramatic changes to the current fiscal path, or it can end in fiscal calamity. DOGE represents an effort to return to fiscal sanity and meaningfully alter our fiscal path. But DOGE by itself is not enough, although it's a major step forward towards American renewal. Most of the personnel reductions, grant reductions, and other forms initiated by DOGE will not result in actual savings unless Congress takes action through appropriations bills and the accompanying explanatory statements. DOGE and the administration can, within certain limits, reprogram spending, implement administrative efficiencies, and rely on statutes authorizing the withholding of expenditures. But ultimately, the Congress is going to have to address entitlements. Let me talk for a second about improper payments. The GAO has estimated since FY 2003, improper payments have been $2.8 trillion, which is nearly a tenth of the national debt. In fiscal year 24, it was $162 billion from at least 16 different agencies.
I wonder
many
why.
Commentators think these are gross underestimates. This is a massive amount of money, and seemingly no one in the executive branch cares or is able to solve this problem. And certainly that is a focus of what Congress and the administration should be about. And ultimately, if the federal executives in charge of these improper payments can't change it, they need to be replaced. Let me just talk for 1 second about the overall federal situation and need to address entitlement reforms. You could abolish the entire federal government and all appropriated spending, and it would not get rid of the federal deficit. Right? You could abolish the Pentagon and each agency and won't get rid of the federal government. We need to address entitlement spending. And there's a host of things that we can do. We can obviously address the improper payment problem. We can also adjust the entitlement program so they reflect tremendous increases in life expectancy since they were created. We can adjust it so that they no longer are transferring hundreds of billions of dollars a year from working young Americans to relatively wealthy old seniors. Programs can be consolidated, and that includes Social Security, Medicare, Obamacare, and the literally dozens of programs designed to address poverty. If these things are not done, then the U.S. will eventually suffer a Greek-style meltdown, inflation that will make our latest round of inflation look like child's play, or a gradual squeeze like what happened to Great Britain in the 60s and 70s.
Mr. Burton, we've got to wrap. Thank you. Thank you. I now recognize Mr. Lips for his opening statement.
Chairwoman Green, Ranking Member Stansbury, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Dan Lips, and I'm a senior fellow with the Foundation for American Innovation. Our mission is to advance technology, talent, and policy ideas that support a freer and more prosperous future. Earlier in my career, I served on the staff of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, where I worked on bipartisan government reform legislation and oversight. In my testimony, I offer you 3 points. First, the United States is on an unsustainable fiscal path. The Treasury Department and the Government Accountability Office have both warned that our growing national debt poses serious economic, security, and societal challenges. Last year, the federal government spent $882 billion just on interest payments. That's more than it spent on Medicare or national defense. At the same time, the government is losing hundreds of billions of dollars each year to fraud and waste. GAO has estimated that the federal government annually loses between $233 billion and $521 billion due to fraud. That's up to $4,000 per American household per year. And as we just heard, last year, the federal government reported making $162 billion in improper payments. And over the last 4 years, improper payments totaled more than $900 billion. Better oversight and financial controls could save hundreds of billions of dollars every year. Second, the Trump administration's focus on government efficiency builds on decades of bipartisan government reform efforts. From the Reagan administration's Grace Commission to the Clinton-Gore National Performance Review to President Obama's fiscal responsibility initiatives, including a 2009 executive order that initiated Treasury's do not pay system, there's a history and a bipartisan tradition of executive action to root out inefficiency in the federal government. President Trump's new Department of Government Efficiency is working to reduce federal spending, shrink the size of the federal workforce, and streamline operations. DOGE has already identified $180 billion in savings and reduced regulatory burdens by eliminating over 1.7 million words from the federal code. The administration has also issued several executive orders informed by DOGE's efforts, such as to reduce fraud and improper payments by centralizing payment systems under the Treasury Department and modernizing financial transactions. But the executive branch cannot do this work alone, which brings me to my final point. Congress should use its legislative and appropriations powers to implement lasting reforms to increase government efficiency and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse. And this should be a bipartisan effort. Members of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee and the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, where I used to work, have a tradition of passing bipartisan government reform legislation. For example, bipartisan legislation has been enacted and introduced in the past to reduce improper payments and prevent fraud. Key reforms to strengthen the Treasury Department's do not pay system, consistent with President Trump's executive orders, have been included in recent bills sponsored by Democratic and Republican lawmakers. These reforms would serve as a good starting point for legislation aimed at improving government efficiency. In my testimony, I discuss other opportunities for government reform legislation that could achieve substantial savings. For example, GAO has identified more than 200 open recommendations for Congress and more than 5,000 open recommendations for federal agencies. These are nonpartisan good government reforms. If addressed, the federal government could save hundreds of billions of dollars. More broadly, Congress should consider creating an annual legislative vehicle, similar to the National Defense Authorization Act, which moves every year, focused specifically on government reform. This would ensure consistent legislative oversight and give the American people's representatives greater input into ongoing reforms to government operations. In closing, improving government efficiency should not be a partisan issue. It's a fiscal necessity. The 119th Congress has a historic opportunity to reduce waste, prevent fraud and misspending, and begin addressing our long-term fiscal challenges. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify. I look forward to your questions.
Discover your new Lincoln right now at Lincoln of Bloomington. Come lease a 2025 Lincoln Nautilus for...
I now recognize Ms. DeVito for her opening statement.
Chairwoman Green, Ranking Member Stansbury, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Emily DeVito, and I am the Senior Advisor for Economic Policy at Groundwork Collaborative, an economic think tank based in Washington, D.C. I've previously served as a policy advisor at the Treasury Department. Americans deserve a government that works for them, a government that makes their lives easier. By that standard, DOGE has failed. It has led to higher costs and more confusion and complexity. It has undermined consumer protections for families, all while the ambitious savings Elon Musk promised failed to materialize. Americans are not impressed with these results. Consistent polling shows strong disapproval of DOGE and deep concerns about the haphazard and reckless cuts DOGE is making across the federal government. Americans also believe, as do I, that the government can do more to deliver for workers and families. As the subcommittee considers the future of DOGE and improving government efficiency and accountability, I would like to highlight several ways DOGE has done the opposite. First, DOGE cuts make it harder and more expensive for families to access the basic needs programs for which they're eligible. DOGE's interventions at the Social Security Administration have disrupted access to critical monthly benefits for the nearly 74 million Americans, including 52 million retirees who rely on them. New policies, such as restrictions on updating bank account information by phone, will force seniors to collectively spend over 1 million hours annually on unnecessary travel just to receive benefits. Staff departures increase the risk of system outages, and beneficiaries face longer wait times and poorer service at understaffed field offices. The Department of Veterans Affairs, which serves over 9 million veterans annually, has also seen interrupted service. The impact of DOGE firings and buyout initiatives has been devastating. One rural Illinois hospital was forced to close its acute care unit due to nurse resignations. Orlando area veterans faced a backlog of over 2,000 unread radiology exams, and over 1,000 veterans in Pennsylvania were denied treatment for life-threatening diseases like cancer. Additionally, sweeping cuts are degrading consumer protection safeguards and empowering bad actors. DOGE has targeted the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which has put over $21 billion back into the pockets of more than 200 million consumers since its founding. Eliminating this key consumer protection agency will enable exploitative companies and financial firms to profit at the expense of consumers. DOGE has also gutted the IRS enforcement teams that ensure billionaires and corporations pay their fair share. As of early March, the IRS has lost 11% of its total workforce and 31% of the revenue agents who conduct audits. This is projected to reduce U.S. revenue up to $350 billion over 10 years. Further, the federal science enterprise is being stripped of the tools and talent needed to develop and deliver the next generation of life-saving treatments. Recent estimates suggest that DOGE's severe cuts to scientific research funding will reduce GDP and overall federal revenues well into the future by inhibiting innovation. Permanently cutting non-defense research and development funding by 50% could decrease GDP in the long run by at least 7% and federal revenues by more than 8%. Finally, DOGE's funding disruptions to U.S. aid and global health programs have already caused widespread deaths. Estimates suggest that the abrupt termination of public health programs will be responsible for over 360,000 deaths, including 200,000 children. DOGE did not generate the $2 trillion in efficiencies that Elon Musk initially called for, or even the $180 billion figure that it now claims. Credible analysis shows that canceled contracts, service cuts, and layoffs may have saved as little as $12 to $15 billion, while total federal spending actually increased year over year. Now that Musk has made his exit, it's clear that DOGE didn't deliver more efficiency, just poorer service. Congress is at a crossroads. It can learn from DOGE's mistakes, redirect, and get back to the important work of ensuring government works for people and not special interests, or Congress can double down on DOGE, cementing the harms that it has caused to families, communities, and our economy. For me, the choice is clear. I encourage leaders in Congress to put this dark episode behind us and deliver a government that works for working families. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
I now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. The DOGE website details much of the wasteful spending it hits the brakes on, and it has an incredible list of top hits. Some of the spending is not just embarrassing, but it is funding actually the genital mutilation of our children, forcing the American taxpayers to pay for it. A $620,000 HHS grant for #Transcendent Health, adapting an LGBT plus inclusive teen prevention program for transgender boys. $620,000 from HHS. It's absurd. This is disgusting, and it facilitates a lie. Here's another one. A $2,000 NIH grant for cross-sex steroid therapy and cardiovascular risk in transgender females. This is another absurd grant that was handed out. A $120,000 NIH grant for personalized 3D avatar tool development for measurement of body perception across